Hi crafters, welcome back and thanks for joining me. This is Jana with Purple Girl Crafts. Today we are going to be making this fun slider card. As you can see when you pull these out, only the top and the bottom slide out. So this is a different take on the double sliding card. And it slides out real smooth. All right, then on the front, and if you can see on the embellishments, I did do some of the accent gloss just to give them a little bit of shine. And then I used that shiny paper on the inside. So let's just go ahead and get started. So I grab my scoreboard and my first piece, we're going to cut this at 5 by 10.5. On that 5-inch or 10.5-inch side, we're going to score this at 5 inches and then 10 inches. Then we need one piece at 4.5 by 4.5, and I'll show you how to cut out that little track in just a few minutes with the trimmer. We need 2 pieces, and these are going to be 4.5 by 3 3/4. And then you'll need 2 pieces at 3.5 by 5. And then you'll need one final piece, and this is going to be for the top of the card, and that is going to be 4.5 square. So that's all the pieces that we need. So we're going to move our scoreboard out of the way, and we're going to grab our trimmer. Now for that piece that had those tracks already away, you're going to line this up at your 1/2 inch mark, and you're going to cut from 4 inches down to 1/2 inch. And then you're just going to cut that little piece away with your scissors, and then turn it again, line it up at 1/2, cut it from 4 down to 1/2, and then just cut that away, just on the side. So you have that little track in there. Next, we're going to work on the sliding part. So this is going to be put at 1 7/8 of an inch. And this is on the smaller side. So you're going to just line it up. And then we're going to cut it down to 3/4 of an inch. Then you're going to turn it, put it at 3/4 of an inch. And then you're just going to cut down to that cut line. And so the second one, you're going to start, and this is on the smaller side. So it's at the 3 3/4 piece size. You're going to line it at 1 7/8, and then just cut down to 3/4 of an inch, lift it up, turn it, line it up at 3/4 of an inch, and then just cut down to that cut line. And then you'll just have these 2 pieces. Now you could have probably cut these out of one piece, but it would have been just a little bit harder to cut. So I figured it was easier just to do the 2 pieces. Then we're going to take the smaller blue ones, and we're going to do the same thing. This time we're going to line it up at 1 5/8, which is the center, and then just cut down to 3/4 of an inch. Then you're going to turn it, line it up at 3/4 of an inch, and then we're going to cut it. Oops. Okay, cut it down from the bottom. Instead of that, I can use that. So it's going to get glued down, so it should be okay. You're going to cut from the bottom. And we'll do the second one, so I'll explain it again. All right, so start at 1 5/8, and then cut down to 3/4 of an inch. Turn your paper, put it at 3/4 of an inch, and this time we're going to do it right. We're going to start from the bottom, and then just cut to that cut line. Then we need a piece of plastic, and this is going to be cut at 3/4 of an inch by 9 inches. So we're going to start with our little piece that we had cut out the track on. And this is just going to get wrapped around here. Now the 9 inch is going to be way too long, but it's easy. That's just the piece I had already cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use my bone folder just to hold that down, and we're going to tape this. And we're just going to tape one end of the plastic, making sure you don't go over the plastic and you don't get on the paper. And then we're just going to cut that away. Again, making sure that it doesn't go over the edge of that plastic so it doesn't get stuck when it's pulling. All right, then what you want to do is you just want to play with this because it's very slippery. So you just want to make sure it's lined up and it's in that track. And then once you have it over, you just want to pull it. Don't pull it tight, but keep that tape piece on the right side like I am here. Pull off that tape, and I'm just going to pull back just a tiny bit just to give it just a little bit of wiggle room, and then just secure it down. And then you can take your scissors while you have it, and we're just going to cut off that extra piece. And then this will just move back and forth nicely. And then just securing it just to make sure that it's down all the way. All right, so I'm going to leave that up there on the left. Now these pieces are going to get glued to that mechanism. Before we do that, I'm going to just go ahead, I'm going to trim all of the corners on all 4 of these. And I'm only doing it on the long end. You can do a smaller corner or a bigger one, just depending on what kind of punch you have. If you don't have a punch, you can just round them with scissors. If you have the envelope maker by We Are Memory Keepers, you can use that to do the rounded edges too if you don't have a corner punch. All right, so these are going to get glued together like this. So I'm going to turn it over, and you want to, when you do this, you're going to glue it so it's in the center, but we're not going to do that piece yet. But this is how it's going to look, and you're going to, the double piece just makes it just a little bit secure. All right, so this is going to get glued to the front, and then this one will get glued to the back, so it'll look like this. So we're going to work on just the front piece. And we're going to put more tape on here, because the tape just works better than glue, in my opinion. You can use glue if you want to. So we're going to put tape just on the plastic again. I've got that piece that I had already glued. It's on the far left side, where I taped, sorry. And we're just putting another piece right on top of that, where that red tape is on the underside. Cut that off, making sure it's secure. And now this piece is going to get glued down, and you want to make sure it's lined up with the bottom of that track of the plastic. So I'm just going to lay this on here. I'm just going to make sure it's lined up with the right side and just lay it down. Just making sure it's totally straight. And then the yellow piece is going to get glued on top of it. And that looks good. All right, but because we're gluing this down, we're going to actually use, I'm going to use my quick dry glue, because this way I've got wiggle room to make sure that it's even on both sides. So I'm going to put glue almost all the way, but not to the end, because the blue piece is going to stick out just a little bit. All right, so we're just going to line this up just with the blue one, but I want to make sure it's in the center of it. So it's going to go over that edge just a little bit. So that looks good. All right, then for the other side, we're going to do the same thing, but because this one is going to get glued on the right side, so it's going to get glued down that way, we're going to glue this piece down first. And you could do this that way instead. So you could put glue on here. I mean, you could glue it first, so let's just do that. So we're going to glue this piece. And you could do that on the top piece too if you want. So we're going to glue this down. And we're going to put this piece just right on top of it. And I'm going to turn it over and make sure it's equal on both sides of the side that's going to pull out. And because I cut that, I'm going to put just a little piece of tape on there. You wouldn't have to do this because you're not going to cut yours like I did. Well, at least I hope you don't. I'm just going to put a piece of tape just on here just so that it doesn't catch. You're not going to see it at all because it's not going to come out of the card, so it's fine. All right, now for this piece, when you do this, you've got to make sure that you're taping it. So you're going to tape it so that you're going to put tape on the yellow part. So this one you're going to tape upside down, basically. So we're going to put a piece of tape again, and this time on the opposite side. And making sure you put tape just on the plastic. Make sure it doesn't touch the paper. And then it's going to get glued just to that side. So I'm going to take my bone folder, make sure that tape is secure, pull that tape off. And then we're going to tape this piece down. So again, I'm just going to making sure it's lined up and it's at the edge. And then even that blue piece is even with the blue, if that makes sense. And as you can see, as you pull it, it will pull out just like that. All right, now for the front of the card. I'm just going to fold this in half on that 5-inch mark. And then we're just going to fold that other piece down. So this card is just going to seal it right inside itself. So this is going to sit on the inside of the card just like this. So you want to make sure that when you have this, it's in the center. And I'm just going to use some glue dots. You could use the foam tape, but these dots aren't very thick, and you don't need this to be very thick so that it doesn't get caught. So these foam dots are just a little bit smaller than normal, if I can get them out. So I'm going to turn this one over first. I'm just going to put glue dots on the bottom. I'm putting about 5 on each side. And just make sure everything's off there. All right, so I'm just going to line this up so that it's even with that bottom piece, and you can see that little flap is sticking upward. And making sure that on the other side, it's about even. And I'm just going to close the card on itself. Making sure it's straight. All right. So it's secure on the bottom. And you see now it pulls nicely. Then we're going to do the same thing, and this is going to get flipped over just on that side, and then we'll put another piece of paper on the back. By doing it that way, you've got that extra little like space in there so that it doesn't get caught. So I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm just going to put the dots on it. I'm just going to lay this down, making sure it's straight, and then just tuck that over. It makes it a little airy, pockety. I'm not sure what the word is to use. Just secure that. And then we'll just put a piece of paper on the back, but I'm just going to use my quick dry glue again, just so I have room to move this. Making sure that is secure and down. And then we'll just put a piece of paper on the back, just a piece of white paper probably at the end. You could tuck it inward, but then you got to worry about it hitting the track when it's moving. Right, then for the front, we're just going to put that one piece down. And again, you could layer on here if you want. On the top, you could do different colors or different layers. Let's turn it with a yellow more on top. Just making sure it's centered. And then for the front, I've got You're a Superstar and my little panda with a star. And I'm just using my quick dry glue. And I'm just going to put glue on this first. I should have done that before I put it on the panda. So I'm going to secure this down. And I'm just going to put it in the lower left-hand corner. And then we'll just pop this little guy right on top of the sign. Make sure he fits on there. And then I've got some extra stars. And these ones are the ones I did put the accent, the glossy accent on it, just to give them just a little bit of shine. I'm just going to put these, just a couple of these around the card. And that is it. That is the card that we made. I also took and put some little arrows on the side for the pullout. If you don't have arrows, you can just draw a little arrow. But that is the card that we made today. I want to thank you for joining me. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. Until next time, happy crafting. See you soon. Bye-bye.